Welcome back to the channel, USA Coins 69, Treasure Hunters and Coin Lovers. Today we are diving into the story of a coin that many people still see in circulation without realizing it might be worth far more than its face value. I'm talking about the United States Washington $quarter from 1971 with its mint mark. At first glance, this quarter may look ordinary. It's small, silver-colored, and familiar to anyone who's ever held American change, but beneath its surface lies a story of history, design, minting errors, and collector demand that has turned certain examples into hidden treasures worth a small fortune. To understand why the 1971 quarter can be so valuable, let's begin with the context of its time. The year 1971 was a turning point in America. The Vietnam War was still going on, the nation was experiencing social change, and the U.S. economy was under pressure. Only a few years earlier, in 1965, the mint had stopped using 90% silver for quarters and shifted to a copper-nickel-clad composition. By 1971, this change was firmly in place, and the quarter people carried in their pockets was no longer made of precious metal. Yet collectors quickly learned that what these coins lacked in silver, they sometimes made up for in rarity and unusual features. The Washington quarter itself had been introduced back in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the obverse shows Washington's bold profile with the word Liberty above and the date at the bottom. On the reverse is the iconic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbols of both strength and peace. By 1971, this design had already become a familiar part of American life, appearing in billions of coins. Yet, as any collector knows, not every coin is created equal, and sometimes the smallest details can turn an everyday piece into a rare collectible. When we talk about the 1971 quarter, one of the most important factors to consider is the mint mark. The coins were struck at different U.S. mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and each mint mark tells a different story. The Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark at that time, Denver coins bore a small d, and San Francisco struck proof versions with an S. The proof coins from San Francisco were specially made for collectors, often with mirror-like finishes, and today, finding one in flawless condition can be quite valuable. But it is often the Denver and Philadelphia business strike coins, the ones made for circulation, that hold surprises in terms of rarity and error varieties. Errors are one of the most fascinating aspects of the 1971 quarter. During minting, mistakes sometimes occurred, producing coins that were unlike any others. These include double die varieties, where parts of the design such as the lettering or date show a distinct doubling, off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned and leaves part of the blank planchet exposed, and even transitional errors, where a coin was accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet. A 1971 quarter struck on a leftover silver planchet or even on a planchet meant for another denomination would be an incredible discovery, and such pieces have commanded extraordinary prices at auction. Another crucial factor is condition. Quarters from 1971 were minted in massive numbers, and most circulated heavily, acquiring scratches, wear, and discoloration over the years. Finding one in pristine condition, known as mint state, is rare. Collectors grade these coins carefully, with the sharpness of Washington's hair detail, the clarity of the eagle's feathers, and the overall luster of the coin determining its grade. A 1971 quarter in average circulated condition may only be worth its face value, but in top condition, the same coin can be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more, depending on rarity and demand. Now let's imagine the journey of one of these coins. A 1971 quarter might have been used to pay for gas when prices were only a few cents per gallon, slipped into an arcade machine by a child chasing the excitement of a game, or saved in a jar by a family as part of their daily expenses. Over time, most of these coins wore down, but a handful were preserved, either by accident or by collectors who recognized their potential. Those preserved examples, combined with rare errors, are the coins that command breathtaking sums today. Collectors are drawn to the 1971 quarter not just for its rarity, but also because it represents a fascinating era in U.S. coinage. The shift away from silver, the changing economy, and the high mintage numbers all create a backdrop where only the sharpest eyes and the luckiest finds lead to discovery. When a coin from this year turns out to be an error or an exceptionally high-grade piece, it can ignite bidding wars at auctions, with prices soaring far beyond what anyone would expect for a simple quarter. So the next time you see a 1971 Washington quarter, don't just toss it aside. Look closely. Check for a mint mark. Inspect the details of the design for doubling or unusual features. Examine its condition under good light. Because while most examples may only be worth 25 cents, a small number of them are treasures hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized. And here's the part you've been waiting for: one of these 1971 Washington quarter dollars with its mint mark, preserved in nearly flawless condition and boasting the right qualities, has been valued at an astonishing $98,000. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating issues: the 1974 Washington quarter with its mint marks, history, and the incredible value it can hold for collectors. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter you might spend at the grocery store, but under the right conditions and with certain rarities, this coin can transform from simple pocket change into a treasure worth a small fortune. So, if you have a handful of coins lying around or you often come across change in your daily life, this is definitely a coin you want to know about. The Washington quarter has been an iconic part of U.S. coinage since its introduction in 1932, originally designed to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The obverse, created by John Flanagan, features a profile of George Washington, a design that collectors and the public have seen for decades. The reverse at that time displayed a bold eagle with spread wings perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength, readiness, and the spirit of the nation. This design carried on for many years until the state quarter program began in 1999, but in the 1970s, the Washington quarter was still holding its classic, traditional look. The year 1974 sits in an interesting period in U.S. history. America was dealing with high inflation, changes in coinage metal compositions, and shifting collector trends. By this time, quarters were no longer made with silver. Since 1965, the U.S. Mint had switched over to the copper-nickel clad composition due to rising silver prices, meaning the 1974 quarter is mostly composed of copper with a nickel outer layer. However, collectors still highly value certain examples of the 1974 quarter due to errors, mint marks, and high-grade conditions. These are the types of details that can make your coin worth just a quarter or tens of thousands of dollars. When it comes to mint marks, the 1974 Washington quarter was struck at three major mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia minted coins from this year do not carry a mint mark, Denver coins can be identified by a small D mark, and San Francisco coins carry an S. Most of the San Francisco issues were proof coins, created with a special striking process and mirror-like surfaces, meant primarily for collectors rather than circulation. These proof coins are beautiful, and when preserved properly, they can hold significant value. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1974 Washington quarter lies in its error coins and high-grade examples. Error coins from this year can include double dies, off-center strikes, and coins struck on the wrong planchets. For instance, there are known cases of quarters being struck on dime planchets, leaving the design incomplete and creating an unusual size and weight. Such errors are rare, but when they surface, they immediately capture the interest of serious collectors and often fetch thousands of dollars at auction. Another type of valuable error from this era is the double die obverse or reverse, where parts of the lettering or design appear doubled, giving the coin a unique and collectible flaw. Grade, or the condition of the coin, is another major factor in determining the 1974 quarter's worth. A circulated 1974 quarter may only be worth face value or slightly more, but when the coin is preserved in high mint state condition, such as MS-65, MS-66, or higher, the value can jump dramatically. Coins that have sharp details, a strong strike, no major scratches, and beautiful luster are highly sought after. Collectors are willing to pay premium prices for these pristine examples because they represent the coin in nearly perfect condition, exactly as it left the mint over 50 years ago. Proof coins from San Francisco also have their own unique appeal. A deep cameo proof, where the frosted devices contrast sharply with the mirror-like fields, can command very strong prices in the collector's market. Even though millions of proof coins were struck, not all survived in perfect condition, making high-grade examples a true treasure for those who come across them. Now, while most 1974 Washington quarters are common and can be found in circulation even today, it is the combination of mint errors, rare conditions, and pristine examples that sets certain coins apart. Collectors are always on the hunt for these coins, and auctions have seen some 1974 quarters reach staggering amounts. This is why it's always worth checking your pocket change and old coin jars. You never know what you might find hiding in plain sight. Think about it. How many times do people overlook coins, assuming they are worth just their face value, when in reality one small detail could turn that coin into something extraordinary? The 1974 Washington quarter is the perfect example of why numismatics is such a fascinating hobby. It combines history, design, rarity, and value all into one small piece of metal that has passed through countless hands over the decades. Today we're going to explore one of the most fascinating dates in its long history, the 1983 Washington quarter. At first glance, this coin may not seem unusual. After all, millions were struck for circulation, and many people still come across them in everyday pocket change. But hidden within these coins are special variations, rare mint marks, and high-grade examples that can turn a simple 25-cent piece into something worth thousands of dollars. By the end of this video, you'll see why the 1983 Washington quarter has become such a treasure among collectors, and why you should keep an eye on your change just in case one of these gems slips into your hands. The Washington quarter series began in 1932, commemorating the 200th birthday of America's first president. The design by John Flanagan shows the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington on the obverse, while the reverse features the proud eagle with wings spread, standing on a bundle of arrows and framed by olive branches. This classic design carried on until the state quarters launched in 1999, so in 1983, the coin still had the bold and traditional look that collectors had admired for decades. What makes the 1983 quarter so interesting lies in its context and production. By this time, the United States Mint had been striking quarters without silver for almost 2 decades. In 1965, the government removed silver from the quarter due to rising costs, replacing it with the copper-nickel-clad composition that is still used today. The 1983 quarter was struck in this copper-nickel alloy, which makes it fairly common, at least at first glance. But the devil is in the details, and when it comes to coin collecting, those details can mean everything. One of the reasons collectors place special importance on 1983 quarters is that the U.S. Mint did not issue official mint sets that year. Mint sets are special collector products containing uncirculated coins from each mint, and they usually help preserve coins in pristine condition. But in 1983, none were released, which means that high-grade, mint state examples of the 1983 Washington quarter are especially difficult to find. Most of these coins went directly into circulation, where they were exposed to scratches, wear, and damage. This scarcity of well-preserved examples drives up demand among serious collectors, making uncirculated coins from 1983 much more valuable than those of other years. When we talk about mint marks, the 1983 quarter can carry no mint mark at all, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia, or it can carry a small D for Denver. Both mints produced millions of coins, but again, it is the condition that truly determines the value. Coins that come back from grading services in the highest mint state grades, MS66, MS67, and above, are prized because so few have survived in that level of quality, but it's not just the lack of mint sets that makes these coins valuable. Error coins and special varieties also add to the excitement. Collectors are particularly interested in 1983 Washington quarters with striking anomalies, such as off-center errors, double dies, or coins struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine finding a quarter with doubled lettering or one that looks slightly smaller because it was struck on a dime planchet. These mistakes are rare, but when they surface, they become the crown jewels of a collection. Error coins from this year can fetch thousands of dollars at auction, depending on their rarity and demand. Proof coins from 1983 also hold special appeal. Although regular mint sets weren't produced, the San Francisco Mint did strike proof coins that year, carrying the S mint mark. These proofs were made with specially prepared dies and polished planchets, giving them a mirror-like shine. While proof coins are generally more available than circulation strikes in high condition, rare varieties, or deep cameo examples with stunning contrasts between frosted devices and mirrored fields can still command impressive prices. Now let's talk about grade in more detail. A circulated 1983 quarter, one that you might find in your change, is generally worth only face value. But take that same coin in mint state condition, free from scratches and blemishes, and it can be worth a lot more. For example, in MS65 condition, values rise sharply, and in MS67, prices skyrocket due to the extreme scarcity. Collectors will often pay premium prices to secure one of these top-graded coins because so few exist. It's the difference between a coin that looks average and one that looks like it just rolled off the minting press. This is why the 1983 Washington quarter is such an intriguing piece of American coinage. On one hand, it is extremely common and still circulates today. On the other hand, certain rare versions, high-grade survivors, and unique errors make it one of the most exciting coins to hunt for. That duality, the common coin with rare treasures hidden among it, is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's about looking closely at the small details that most people ignore and realizing that history, rarity, and value are often hiding in plain sight. Collectors love the chase, and the 1983 Washington quarter offers plenty to chase after. From the Philadelphia and Denver issues without mint sets, to the San Francisco proofs, to the elusive era coins, there is something for every type of collector. And while millions of these coins were struck, the rarest and most perfect examples are the ones that command the spotlight in the numismatic world. Today, we are going to focus on one of those fascinating coins, the 1973 Washington quarter. At first glance, this coin looks just like the ones you've probably handled hundreds of times in your life. But don't let its common appearance fool you. The 1973 quarter hides secrets of history, rarity, and collector demand that have made it one of the most intriguing pieces of modern American coinage. And by the end of this video, you'll discover just how valuable one of these coins can really be. The Washington Quarter series first appeared in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of the nation's first president, George Washington. The design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, has become a classic in American coinage. The obverse features Washington's portrait, sharp and dignified, while the reverse showcases a proud eagle with wings spread, perched on arrows and surrounded by olive branches. By 1973, this design had been in use for over 4 decades, making it one of the most recognizable pieces of money in American pockets. But what makes the 1973 Washington quarter stand out is not simply its design, but its story. By this time, the U.S. Mint had long since switched from silver to the copper-nickel-clad composition we are familiar with today. That transition took place in 1965 when silver was removed from quarters due to the rising price of precious metals. This means that a 1973 quarter is not silver, but rather a blend of copper and nickel with a pure copper core, giving the coin its distinctive sandwich look when viewed from the edge. Still, even without silver content, collectors seek out the 1973 quarter for its condition, its mint varieties, and for rare errors that make some examples worth far more than face value. The Philadelphia Mint struck quarters without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint produced coins with a D mint mark. Additionally, the San Francisco Mint struck proof coins for collectors, which carry the S mint mark. Each of these varieties plays an important role in the value of 1973 quarters, but the most eye-catching prices are reserved for those coins that stand out because of quality or rarity. For circulation strikes from Philadelphia and Denver, most examples today are heavily worn, as they have spent decades being used in everyday transactions. But the rare survivors in mint state condition, especially in high grades such as MS66 and MS67, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Why? Because coins struck in 1973 were made in massive quantities and were not preserved in special mint sets, meaning most of them quickly entered circulation. Uncirculated coins from this year are far less common than you might think, and those preserved in pristine condition are true prizes. Proof coins from San Francisco, on the other hand, were made specifically for collectors and never intended for circulation. These coins feature mirror-like fields and frosted details, giving them an appearance that is instantly recognizable. A flawless 1973's proof with deep cameo contrast can fetch impressive prices, as collectors compete to add high-grade examples to their collections, but perhaps the most fascinating, and most valuable, 1973 quarters are those with mint errors and striking varieties. Imagine discovering a coin with a double die, where parts of the design appear doubled, or an off-center strike, where the design is misaligned on the blank planchet. These rare mistakes, caused during the minting process, can transform a simple coin into a sought-after rarity. Even more dramatic errors, such as coins struck on the wrong planchet, like a quarter struck on a dime or nickel blank, create incredible excitement in the numismatic community. Each of these unique errors tells a story of how the minting process can occasionally produce something unexpected, and collectors will pay top dollar to own such pieces of history. Another important factor when determining value is eye appeal. Even among coins of the same grade, those with brighter luster, fewer marks, and stronger strikes can command higher prices. Collectors are always looking for coins that stand out visually, and a sharp, beautiful 1973 quarter can sometimes sell for much more than a dull or unattractive example of the same date. When you combine rarity, condition, and the occasional minting error, you begin to understand why the 1973 Washington quarter has become such a collector favorite. It's a coin that seems ordinary to most people, but extraordinary to those who know what to look for. This is what makes coin collecting such an exciting hobby. You never know what treasures could be hiding in plain sight. Think about how many quarters you've handled in your lifetime. Most people spend them without a second thought. But for coin collectors, each one holds the possibility of being something rare, something valuable, or something historically important. That is the beauty of numismatics. The 1973 quarter is a perfect example of how everyday coins can surprise us with hidden worth. Today, we'll be diving into the fascinating story of the 1981 Washington quarter, a coin that at first glance seems ordinary, yet under the right circumstances, it can turn out to be an incredible treasure. By the end of this journey, you'll see why coin collectors pay close attention to this date, why mint marks matter so much, and how condition and rarity can make all the difference. And most importantly, you'll discover just how valuable a 1981 Washington quarter can truly be. Let's begin with the background. The Washington quarter has been part of American pockets since 1932, when it was introduced to honor the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. John Flanagan's portrait of Washington became a national symbol, and it remained virtually unchanged for decades. By the time we get to 1981, the Washington quarter had already gone through a major transformation, no longer struck in silver like the original versions, but instead made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, reflecting the economic changes of the 1960s when silver was removed from circulating coinage. This switch meant that the 1981 quarter didn't contain precious metal, but that didn't stop it from becoming a collector favorite for entirely different reasons. In 1981, quarters were struck at three different mints: Philadelphia, which at that time did not use a mint mark, Denver with its D mark, and San Francisco with its S mint mark for proof coins. Each of these carries a different story for collectors. The Philadelphia and Denver issues were struck in massive numbers and released into everyday circulation, meaning most of them endured decades of wear and tear. Proof coins from San Francisco, on the other hand, were made for collectors with brilliant mirrored surfaces and sharp detail, never intended for pocket change. But what makes a 1981 quarter truly special isn't simply where it was struck, it's the quality and the rare varieties that sometimes slip past the eyes of the U.S. Mint. Coins from this year are especially interesting because of their striking errors. Imagine finding a double die, where the design details appear doubled, or a coin struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. These errors are rare, unique, and highly desirable among collectors, often multiplying the coin's value many times over. Another thing to consider is grade, or condition. The grading scale ranges from heavily worn circulated pieces all the way up to flawless coins in mint state. Most 1981 quarters you find in circulation today will be well worn, having been used in commerce for over 40 years. But on rare occasions, a coin has been preserved in pristine condition, showing full luster, strong strike, and virtually no marks. These high-grade examples are what collectors fight over at auctions. Coins graded at the very top levels, MS-66, MS-67, or beyond, are exceedingly scarce and command premium prices. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint add another layer of intrigue. In 1981, proof quarters were produced with deep cameo contrast, meaning frosted devices stand out against mirror-like fields. A flawless 1981 S-proof quarter, especially one certified at the highest grades, is highly sought after. Even more fascinating are the small die variations that sometimes appear in proof sets, creating collectible varieties that specialists love to hunt for. Beyond condition and varieties, the true appeal of the 1981 Washington quarter lies in its ability to surprise collectors. To most people, it's just spare change, no different from any other coin in their pocket. But to a trained eye, it could be a hidden gem. That's what makes the world of coin collecting so exciting. Every coin has a story, and every coin has potential. Now, think about this: the vast majority of 1981 quarters are worth just their face value. But within that sea of ordinary coins are a few rare treasures, coins that were struck perfectly, preserved carefully, or created with unique errors that set them apart. These are the coins that command attention in auctions and coin shops, the ones that make collectors' hearts race when they surface. It's easy to imagine someone pulling a 1981 quarter from their change, tossing it aside, and never realizing that they could be holding something truly valuable. That's why knowledge is so important in this hobby. When you know what to look for, you give yourself the chance to discover coins that others overlook. And the 1981 quarter is a perfect example of this hidden potential. So, if you have a jar of old coins sitting at home, or if you're the kind of person who still checks their change at the grocery store, pay attention to those Washington quarters from 1981. Check the mint mark. Examine the details carefully. Look for sharp strikes, unusual errors, or proof-like qualities. Because that ordinary coin in your hand might not be ordinary at all. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the potential value. Among the finest and rarest examples of the 1981 Washington quarter, collectors have paid astonishing sums. In fact, one exceptional coin from this year reached a jaw-dropping value of $88,000.